Well, talking about, I mean, what we have been talking about right now may be more applicable to like lower level students, right? When we do have to correct grammar and stuff like this. But when it comes to kind of B2, C1, C2 learners, I guess things are kind of a little bit different because they're not making like mistakes in their classical understanding, but they might sound a little bit maybe less natural, maybe not so much precise, maybe not so much appropriate, and normally like lexically wise, right? This is normally about lexis, especially when they use some new vocabulary, they might sound a little bit not, I mean, precise, appropriate, and stuff like this. So how would you approach this kind of correction?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Like I say, I have this kind of speaking club. The last ever one I'm doing, C1 and C2, and
And the
like,
point in there.
yeah, and uh, the mistakes are often like a slight misuse of an idiom or something like that. It's interesting because basically, what I sort of tend to do is I usually wait until they're finished. Because they're speaking so fluently, and because I don't see it as something quite major, I usually kind of write them down. That's if they make mistakes, because I have my own methods of speaking club, as you know, by providing just massive example chunks of language where it's all set. Yeah, and so usually, like when they get to the end, I say, by the way, can I just say something? You said this, but we say it like that. So that's how I kind of improve it. So yeah, with the kind of higher levels, who are really sort of aiming, well, they're aiming for accuracy as well as fluency, but I tend to not interrupt unless it's serious.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because this kind of barging in that it only interrupts the flow, and I
It
mean,
does, kills it.
and you know what I've noticed is that sometimes when teachers try to barge in, kind of cut into the conversation, students can't even understand what's happening. Let alone,
Yes, yes, absolutely. And often they can't get back to what they're saying. That's what I've noticed. When I have done that, they just kind of, I've lost my train of thought now. I'm like, damn. And I kind of killed it. And that's confident destructive, you see. So
absolutely, absolutely, because it's a disruption. It's not a correction. It's a
yeah,
disruption.
it's a
And
disrupt. That's perfectly said. It's a disruption, not a correction. Perfectly said.
yeah, thank you very much. So, and what I personally do, I keep just a Word document. I mean, and writing down everything students say, and then at the end of the class, we have a kind of language feedback time. And normally, when students produce something which is not maybe that kind of polished up, not that natural, inappropriate, I normally write the sentence, put an arrow literally in a Word document, and ask them, guys, let's try to think how we can phrase it more precisely, more naturally, stuff like this. And this is how we do this. And you know what? I believe that correction and progress, I mean, not correction, but progress isn't about also correcting, but progress is also about being able to notice some good parts, right? Like,
Yes.
I really love this. Let's see how it is precise and notice how it is natural and stuff like this. Because sometimes students produce these good pieces subconsciously and they don't even realize why it is so good. But if you look
Yeah.
specific attention, they will see that and it will kind of reinforce the right pattern, so to speak.
It does. That's also just it's really interesting you say that because again, because of imposter syndrome, students can't believe when they've done something right. That's the thing. And we have to sort of reinforce sometimes, like, well, we're not talking about the perfection, being a perfectionist, but perfection of work, you know, having achieved 100% mark because the page is like free of mistakes. And we have to sometimes enforce the fact that that is amazing. Because, but my experience is so many students just sort of don't want to believe it. And kind of find excuses for it. It's like I don't get that. Well, I do get it, but it requires as much effort in supporting as people making mistakes as well, and teachers don't realize that.
Absolutely do. And you know, frequently when I write these good pieces, I say I even nominate people. Like Maria was very successful in that, and they don't even believe that they said that. Can you imagine? And this,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's an interesting like whole branch of teaching, and I think it's kind of one of those areas which is really underestimated. And I think you know, with your expertise, Natasha, I think you need to lead the charge in this sphere, and I would follow you because I think, you know, you would motivate so many teachers on error correction because you have a humanistic approach to teaching, which is important because you're very empathetic.
oh, thank
And
you.
I think, and I hope people watching this really understand that. And I'm not saying this to please you, but I want people to come to you and learn because they would be in like, as I said, like as long as I've known you, you're the big new face of EFL, and you know Russia needs you right now.
Well, thank you very much, dear Paul. You just, I mean, see, you're making me blush. Thank you very much.
No,
So
you're just saying everything that's just so relevant and just so correct and it's just so proper to fostering a perfect learning environment. You know, this kind of comes on to the